What is the best checklist to use when giving a talk? In this episode, I'm going to share with you a success checklist that spells success, S-U-C-C-E-S-S, that has been a game changer in any talk, speech, radio show that I do, any book that I write. This is coupled with another episode that I call the VOTA formula. And so I want you to take some meticulous notes, and this will make all the difference in the world so that whatever you say will stick with the audience that you were speaking to. I'm Doug Andrew, and I've written 11 books, and I've spoken over 85,000 hours in my life to audiences. I love to talk with people and uplift them, help them see a brighter future, maybe opportunities that they have not noticed before. And several years ago, a best-selling book was introduced. It was a bright orange book with a silver imitated duct tape on it, and the book's title was Made to Stick. Now, what's interesting is in reading that book, the authors had a success checklist. And so when that book first came out, my coach, Dan Sullivan, he's an entrepreneurial coach. He's one of several that I have that mentor me. He recommended we read this book, and then we got together and sort of created our own version of a success checklist. And so I'm going to show you my version where I took it and adapted it from the book Made to Stick. In another episode, I share what is called a VOTA formula, that whenever I write a book or get on the radio or speak to an audience, I want them to understand that if you read this book, here's the vision, the vivid vision of a brighter future. Here's the obstacles that stand in the way of achieving that vision that we need to eliminate. And this book will show you how to do that. Here's the transformation that will take place when you finally achieve this vivid vision. And then here's the action steps. So VOTA, vision, obstacles, transformation, and action steps. So that's the book. That's the entire speech or workshop. Now we get down to the chapters, the nitty-gritty, and this is where we want to spell success. Are you ready? Here is the S-U-C-C-E-S-S, and you don't have to do it in this order, but anytime you want what you say or what you write to be read or heard or watched by other people, use this. I have given talks, I've taught lessons, and people 10, 15, 20, 30 years later go, I will never forget that talk or that show that you told this and shared that concept. And it was because in every case, I used this formula. This has been such a game-changing formula, I actually created a worksheet. So whenever I am going to get on the radio for an hour, or I'm going to give a talk, whether it's 10 minutes or 60 minutes or 4 hours, that's all I have. I sit down and I get very clear the vision, obstacles, transformation, action steps, but then I go down and write in each one of these boxes the success checklist. So let's go down in order. The first S is what's the simplest point I am making. Keep it simple and short. Do you remember that KISS method? Keep it simple and sincere. And so what's the simplest point that I'm going to make? I want to make absolutely sure I'm clear and that when I get through, they are clear on the simplest point I'm making. Simple. The U stands for understand your audience. Now in the book Made to Stick, they said, say some unexpected fact. That's one way, but see, I want to understand my audience. If I am teaching a bunch of troubled youth at a suicide crisis center or at a detention center, or I'm talking to adults or entrepreneurs or orthodontists or chiropractors or CPAs or tax attorneys, I want to make sure I understand what is it that they're facing. If it's teenagers, I know the challenges they're having. So I want to understand my audience and make sure that I know what their biggest dangers are, what opportunities they need to seize, and what strengths they need to harness in order to overcome and achieve this vision. That's the U. So then we have two C's in the middle of the word success. The first C stands for concrete. In other words, how does this true principle, because I'm trying to teach about a true principle. How does this true principle work in practical life? In other words, I need to make it relevant. And so by doing that, I use a metaphor or an example of how this is relevant to them. It's not about me. It's about them. See, this YouTube video is not about me. This is about you and how you can use a success checklist to communicate with anybody. The next C after concrete is credible. In other words, you need to explain what real life experiences people have, bring it down to reality. So I ask myself, why are people, this audience, why are they feeling confused? Why do they feel isolated in their set of circumstances? And why do they feel powerless? I then go, well, in order to clear up the confusion, I need to give them clarity, new direction. I need to then use confidence. I want to instill confidence so they don't feel isolated in their set of circumstances. And then I need to use creativity. So clarity, confidence, and capability really gives people new ability. They don't feel powerless, they feel empowered. So clarity, confidence, and capability clears up confusion, isolationism, and powerlessness. You deliver that by using what we call LRC. Leadership gives people clarity, new direction, they don't feel confused. Relationships is what gives people faith and confidence in a brighter future. They no longer feel isolated in their set of circumstances. And then you use creativity, parables, metaphors, stories, to empower them that I can do this. They feel more capable, they feel empowered, and so they don't feel powerless. That is how you use credibility. Now we're down to the E in the word success. E stands for emotion. In other words, you need to relate to people with both the right brain and left brain. Don't assume that everybody gets it or learns or thinks or makes decisions logically. Those are left brain people. Many people are right brain. They make decisions based upon how they feel. So it's matters of the heart besides matters of the mind. High concepts coupled with high touch. Then you're not alienating half of your listeners or your audience when you bring in emotion to it, because it's about real life and emotion. So that's the E. You ready for the first of the final two S's? This is story. Now, people love stories. And so I always think of a story that illustrates the point I'm making. And if you can tell a real life story about you or that you've had, that's best. If you can't, you can tell a third-party story and help people understand through the use of stories how it relates to real life, and that will also bring in the emotion. So you incorporate a story to illustrate your point. And every time I have done this, when we wrote the book Millionaire by 30 with my two sons, we were going down this success checklist in my wife's dining room, and it's pretty laborious, but I made sure every single chapter spelled success, and there was a story, sometimes 2 or 3 in every single chapter, so people would get it. That leaves the final S. What's that? In the book Made to Stick, they don't spell success with 2 S's at the end. We do. The final S stands for substance, okay? See, whoever you're wanting to uplift or influence needs to feel like this matters and they can do it, that they can get their arms around it. It's not esoteric, it's not fluff. This is real, it has substance, and you can do it. Here's the action steps. Again, you don't have to do it in the order of SUCCESS. But if you give a talk, if you're communicating, if you're emailing, if you really want to make an impact and make it stick, spell success one way or another and watch how people remember what you said. But more than remembering what you said, they will remember how they felt. In my various workshops, we put together mastermind groups, and one of them is a legacy masters group where many people come with their partner and we meet on a quarterly basis, and they're learning how to create a legacy bank. A family bank is what we call it. They're learning how to abolish entitlement mindset with those that they care about, their kids and their grandkids or their employees or whatever. And this is what motivated me to write my 10th book called Entitlement Abolition. This isn't not just about family. We're all family. But in this book, there are 17 tools that I disclose. One of them is that success checklist. And so you can see these tools, use them. But if you would like to sort of see the VODA success checklist and how it plays out in writing a book, because whenever I've taught this to authors and they went through their book and changed it to spell success every chapter, and their whole book fulfilled the VODA formula, all of a sudden it turned into a bestseller. That's one of the secrets on how to write a best-selling book. If you would like to see how this is done, I will gift you free a copy of this. You go to entitlementabolitionbook.com. You'll pay $5.95 shipping and handling, and I'll fire one out to you. You can also get an audio version or even an 18-hour deep dive masterclass if you want. But start out with this and get empowered on how you can use a checklist to communicate more effectively in any setting with a grandson or granddaughter, a son or daughter, adult or child, scouts, employees, patients, clients. And you'll see the difference on how what you are communicating and how they felt will last for years.